Man, we are live and we are in full effect. I can't believe we got it back on. We getting it going, and we're doing the thing. Listen up, everybody. I am proud to announce that at Team Team Ministries we are doing our conversations, and I have with me one of the greatest pastors, preachers, speakers, scholars on
I
in
don't
on
know
this
about
side on this side of heaven, somebody that I am very honored to call friend, to call brother. At the time I was getting my doctorate degree, he was one of the mentors that literally pulled me by the back of my shirt and dragged me across the finish line. And I'm just excited to call him brother now. But I want you guys in the comments in the chat, show your love for my good friend, Dr. Gene Austin. And y'all just show your love in the comments. Give me some hand claps. Give me some thumbs up emojis. Give them some love, and we're going to get this thing started. Can't thank you enough for accepting my invitation, Dr. A, about this subject, a very controversial subject. If those that don't know, this conversation is literally based off of my dissertation from Jake's Divinity School. Shout out to Jake's Divinity School. And it is the decline of black men's church attendance and the effect it has on the family and the community. And this is something that we are struggling with big time in our community, big time in our churches. Um, I like to tell people this was the pandemic before the pandemic, Dr. A. You know, the disappearance of brothers sitting in the pews, the disappearance of brothers sitting in the pulpit area, the disappearance of brothers being in the household. And so we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. And we're just going to pull off the band-aids, pull off the undercover covers, and we're going to really get into it as much as as much as we're going to get to do this thing. So without further ado, let's get into this bad boy and really go up before I want to even jump into it and something like that. Listen, statistically, we're both doctors of the field, doctors of the church, and so we are men of faith and we're a man of facts. That's why we study so hard. That's why we were up late writing papers because we got to understand that faith and facts actually are not opposites. They go hand in hand and they walk together. And I just want to hit it up so with the facts going right now. I just want to show this that according to research, get this, listen to me. According to research, 80% of black men believe in God in this country. So 80% of brothers in this country right now believe in God or a higher power. But out of those 80% of brothers, only 10% actually attend a church service or a worship service.
yeah,
That's daunting. 80% of us in
yeah.
this country believe in God, but only 10% out of that actually show up to service. What are your thoughts on that? Where can you go as a pastor? What is your thoughts on that?
So when we look at those statistics, um, 80% of men believe in a God or a higher power, but yet there it's a different dynamic nowadays.
Hmm.
People are not denominationally focused; they're God focused.
Correct.
So
Yes.
in the research now, I'm finding out that people are more seekers. They're seekers, right?
Hmm.
And when you have seekers, you can't confine their mindset,
No.
right? So our presenting God in the pureness and His fullness, and as an organism, right? And I always like to separate it between the organism and the organization, right? The
Hmm.
organization is the man-made, doc bylaws, constitution type, but the organism is a living, breathing, expanding uh, purpose of God in the earth. So
Well,
that's
you
what.
gotta break that down. Hold on. Say that again, because that's you just dropped something deep on there, and you could say that again so everyone can get it.
So my one of my principles is that there's a difference between the organism and the organization.
Got it. That's
Like,
good.
so
That's
let me
good.
preface this: there's nothing wrong with the organization,
Right.
just as long as it's focused is to embody the organism, the living, breathing, moving, expanding divinity that's
Hmm.
presented in this world. And so we want to make sure that the organization's purpose and objectives doesn't overshadow, override the ordained purpose of the organism, which
Right.
is the living, breathing, expanded manifestation of God to.
Oh, we lost him. He was getting good too into it. Let's see. We just give him a sec. He'll get it. But he was breaking down. I'm going to keep going until he comes back in. It
Yeah, I'm
was
back.
okay. Good.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But the organization is what I think a lot of black men are suspect of,
Mm.
right? And
Why?
and
Why are they
and
suspect? Why are they suspect?
because okay, as a black man, okay,
Hmm.
we're used to being oppressed. We're used to at times being dehumanized. We're used to at times being restricted. So the last place we want to be restricted is in the church, right?
Very
So
good.
right. So is your approach to me and wanting to join, is it agenda based? In other words, do you want me to be a part of you so this body can make me the best me that God has created me to be? Or do you want to duplicate me uh into whatever that organization would be, whatever said church, whatever denomination, whatever dogma it may whatever teaching
Mhm.
or doctrine, right?
Right.
I was created to be fully me.
Right.
And you talk about this in your book and your paper, if I may. Can I go there? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
So you talk about being created in the image of God, the imago Dei, right?
Hmm.
Right. The image of God, which doesn't mean duplicate, but it means likeness,
Yes. Very much so.
which means I can be like God, but yet keep my identity, but yet
Hmm.
keep my uniqueness, the best
Right.
me that I can be, but yet God manifesting in my persona or who He
Mhm.
created me to be, versus a duplication. And I believe a lot of times we can be, we have to be careful of creating duplicates,
Yeah. Carbon copies. Yeah.
deliberately being the likeness of God without
Hmm.
losing their identity, right? And I don't know. That I think at times we can be pushing off, right? Or kind of making men suspect when you want me to be like something that I may not even desire myself, may not even be
Mm.
complimentary to me, right? So are we into duplication or are we into likeness? You can't get mad at me, Dr. Tate, because that's your writings. I read through the writings. I read through it.
All right.
That thing hit me. We got to make sure that we're not trying to make duplicates.
Exactly. And what he's referring to, y'all, if you don't know, it's in the writing above. It's in that we're talking about my new book, The Decline of Black Man's Church Attendance. And this is a four-part series. I had to get Dr. A to be my leadoff hitter because you already see that he is dropping gems on us about the subject. So we're doing this from a pastor's perspective. And to your point, no, we can't have duplicates. Um, the Great Commission, he said, go and make disciples and make followers. They didn't say anything about making duplicates. It said make disciples. It said anything about duplicates.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, God's into multiplication and not carbon copy. So when we're calling and when we're pulling on these men and we're instructing these men, we're not trying to change them to be another version of us. We're empowering them to be themselves and however they and the uniqueness and the likeness in which God has created them to be and called them to be. But it's difficult right now because what we're facing is how do we do that when they're not showing up? How do we do that when I'll hit you? Well, let me hit you with this one, and I want you to hit it because according to my research for my doctoral program, it says research shows that approximately 80% of churches have less than 50% male population within it. So you can go out of 8 out of 10 churches, and it's heavily female in the audience. Males are I don't want to say it's a dying breed, but they're almost extinct and an extinct presence in the church, and that's something difficult because I'm an '80s baby, so I wasn't around during the Dr. King era. I had to read about it. I had to hear about it from my grandfathers. I had to hear about it from my dad. I had to hear from the elders, and understanding that the marches, the sit-ins, the demonstrations, men were not cowering, and when men were not absent, nor were they cowering. They were up front leading. And this whole thing, let me make this disclaimer right now because I want to make this perfectly clear. This is nowhere in a dig or to put down our females. In fact, Dr. A and I salute the women that have stood there and have taken it and have stood there and have led and they're by themselves and have done it with no covering, have done it with little to no means, and have done it and raised children. In fact, let me bust out with this: 65% of Black households in this country do not have a father living with them. 6.5 kids out of 10 do not have a dad present in the home living with them. And so a lot of these things that we saw that Dr. King and that era has done is it was because their fathers taught them. It was because they had some kind of male mentor in their life that pulled them and said, you know what, let's go, boy. You're coming with me. You don't have a choice. And a lot of times I hear is the fathers are gone, and so the responsibility, the covering, the protection, the provision left with them. And it's a very difficult and it's a very, very very sad thing to see and hear and witness, especially as pastors, me and you. We see that on a weekly basis. We'll see mom and kids, but where's dad at? And where's the breakdown in that? And I touched on that a little bit in my book. And what it is the research that I found. Oops, I knocked over my mic. The research that I'm finding. There's three main reasons, Doctor A, and you can tell me if you agree with it or not. One is they don't trust. Exactly what you said earlier. Men don't trust easily. Because once you stab me in the back, I see that you're a hypocrite, or once that I see that I place my trust in you and you misplace it, it's very hard for us to put my trust in you again. The second one is employment. It's very difficult nowadays to put things together, to put ends meet together. Listen, y'all, Dr. A, I don't know if he's part Jamaican, but this man is, I think he's trivocational. He
Yeah.
has his ministry, his pastorship, and a job. I'm the same way. I have my ministry, I have a job, and I do other things, to make sure that our families are okay. Part of our calling as a man is protective priest, but it's also is provider. And we want to make sure as a man, as what we are called to do, is make sure that we can provide for our families. And sometimes, even if you just have the smallest of hiccup, Dr. A, and I'm talking too much, the smallest of hiccup, you can't get a job that has off Sundays off. You got to get what you can get. You got to take what you can take. And so a lot of our guys and a lot of our men that I've surveyed is they would love to go to church, but I got to put food on the table, Pastor. I got to put a roof over our head. I can't make it on Sundays because the only job that I can get requires me to be there on Sundays.
So can I back up? Let's
Yes, go ahead. Back this trailer up. Go ahead, man.
first of all, you messing with me. You
I
messing with
have
me.
to. It's my
And,
job.
and
I have to.
so I'm transparent. I'm
Uh-huh.
transparent, and it comes back to where and you talk about. So I'm a author now. God's blessed me to publish. I
Can
have
y'all
my
give it
wife
up
and
for
I.
Dr. A being an author? That's amazing. He
Oh yeah,
signed.
yeah, yeah. Since
Yeah.
I'm here,
Go ahead, show it off, brother. Show it off. Ooh, look at that. That
yeah,
boy's an
yeah, yeah,
author.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Someone
That
is
boy's an
missing.
author.
Yeah, yeah.
Show him
But
some love
anyway,
in the
but but
chat.
but it goes back to when my wife I got sick
Hmm,
early in our
hmm.
marriage. She got sick, and she was pushing to go to work, and she didn't know how to tell me. I was barely getting. I think I had like two stripes. I was in the military. I only had like two little stripes. I think I just made maybe E4 maybe, but barely making it. And my wife, I saw her trying to go to work, and she was sickly. She could barely get out of bed to the fact she
Mhm.
collapsed, and the
Mm.
rescue squad had to come get her. And when I seen my wife, and she didn't know how to tell me that she wasn't well enough. She was sick and couldn't work, but the
Mm.
bills, and that thing hit me. And I went to God, and God was like, that's your fault. You make your finances to the point to where you never include her check from this day forward. If
Mm.
there's ever a financial need, you don't include her.
Wow. Wow. You're walking heavy now, boss. You're
So,
walking
so
heavy.
but I went to God, and God told me, He said, don't complain to me if you ain't gonna do nothing about it.
Mm.
And I began to research. I put on my suit and
Pause. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta put a pause there, Pastor. Say that again because that's something that men all across this nation need to hear. Say that again.
don't complain to me if you're not gonna do anything about it.
Come on now.
I mean, my wife was crawling up the stairs trying to
Mm.
get dressed to go to a job, and I didn't realize that I was already at work because I work nights at this time. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that what she was going through simply because she didn't know how I was going to take it. And when the Lord blessed me from that day forward, here we are, some 20 years later. If my wife gets a check on a speaking engagement or whatever she does Mary Kay, whatever check she bring in, if she throw them out the window, my our survival is on my income, right? And so at that time, I didn't have a support system like from the church that you know mentored me or even
Mm-hmm.
took the time to care about where I was, what my needs were, what I was going through, what my family was going through,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I think that's key as as churches when we deal with black men, rather than waiting for them to spill their guts or open up, because we are challenged with opening up.
Very much
We
so.
like to talk,
Very
but
much so.
maybe we should look at the statistics, the demographics of our community. Maybe we
Mm.
should get to know the men of the families of those women. There you go.
Wow.
Thank you. If 50%, if over 50% are women, well, I think it's like 60 to 75% in some churches,
Correct.
are women, and we know they're married, or we know they have a son, or we know they have nephews. Do we get to know their families beyond them?
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Because I was left to figure it out myself. And God
Mm.
gave me some things. He told me, He said, put your suit on. Since you need more money, you put your suit on and you go down to Papa John's. And when
Mm.
I showed up to Papa John's, bro, I had a suit and I had a tie. And you
Uh-huh.
and that she thought I was a manager from the main store. I was like, no, ma'am, I need a job. And I'm not
Uh-huh.
leaving here. So I
Right.
was delivering pizzas. I was working at Dillard's. Plus I was working my normal 9 to 5 because I had to figure that out by myself. I wonder how quickly I would have got to that had I had a church that
Mm-hmm.
cared about, watch this, that cared about me beyond the gift that I brought to the church.
Come on now.
My wife was the choir director. I,
Shout
I
out
was
to Miss Valencia, choir director.
I was the youth leader and the assistant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was the organist.
Mm.
But we were struggling.
Right.
Man. I mean, we and God just took care of us. But I think that in trusting God, there's some practical gifts, there's some practical resources we can
Right.
share with these men who are dying on the inside, who are
Right.
suffering, um, to help them. But we
Right.
got to be willing to take the time. Here's the thing: time, money, and resources.
Right.
If you're not willing to spend them, then I'm not important enough to you. And once I know that, I know you don't care about me. Kick rocks. Excuse me. Did I say that? Yeah, I said.
Yeah, you did.
That's what they're saying. That's what these men are saying. If
Right.
you don't take the time, resources, it takes time for you to go over the demographics. It takes time for you to get to know the community of what you've been called to serve. And
Right.
so I think that we've got to be willing to spend the time and the resources to look at the demographics, to look at the statistics,
Right. Right.
and get to know even the women that make up your church. Or let me use this example. We were having a dinner. I'm all over the place, but hey, let's
Go
roll.
ahead. Go.
We were
Flow.
having,
Flow.
we were having a dinner at the church,
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first church I was pastoring. And one of the mothers was making a plate for me, and I said to her, I said, I realized she was married, but her husband was not a member of the church.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I know you're going to take your husband a plate. And she was like, why would I take it? I said, no, 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 no. We're not going to do that because we're not going to treat the pastor better than we treat your husband. I don't care if
Come
he's
on.
saved or
Come
do
on.
you realize that I took when this man found out what I said? Because she went home and told her the pastor told me to bring you a plate, so I'm bringing you this plate and blah blah blah. That touched this man's heart. Do you
Mm.
know that he ended up joining the church, giving his life to Jesus,
Come on.
ended up being the a deacon, and after some years, he ended up being the chairman of our deacon board.
Come on.
Because why? I cared. We've got to we agenda. I wish somebody, if you put it in the chat, we cannot be an agenda-driven church.
Come on. In
And
fact, someone put that in the chat. We cannot be an agenda
driven
driven
and,
church.
and let me be careful of this. I don't want to demonize the church because
No.
that's not
No.
we are the church.
Right.
But I just think that we've got to be more creative and we've got to be more subject focused. And I
Right.
think that's with the and you talk about this. You talk about the purpose of humanity in the first place was for God to glorify
Right.
in their individual roles.
Right.
And we've got to be careful that we don't demonize the women and that we don't demonize the men. We
Right.
don't we don't dehumanize the women and we don't be male chauvinistic in our approach. We've got to make sure that we're inclusive in our teaching, in our preaching,
Right.
because what would you do? And then we can talk about this. Maybe you could. How would you feel if you sat down as and you watched on Facebook or whatever, and the only thing you heard the preacher talk about is how the men are no good, and how
Right.
you can make it without a man, and that man ain't this and this. And sometimes when I just sit and I listen to the sermons, I can see why a man might not want to come to our church.
Exactly. I wouldn't.
Right. But then on the other hand, and I'm an advocate for women, right? So I got to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, on the other hand, if you preach and then the only authoritative figure in the church is the pastor,
Come on.
he or him,
Correct.
then the man is saying, well, ain't no need of me come because I don't have no place because the pastor does everything, controls
Mm-hmm.
everything, it's all power. And let me say this, men and women are preachers and are pastors. So I'm inclusive of that. But we just got to make sure that the church is equipped to meet the needs of all and not dehumanize or demonize male or female. Because we know even in the beginning, when you talk about masculinity, don't get mad at me. You talk about that's one of the chapters. I'm not giving
Right.
out much, but y'all need to get this book because it talks about the masculinity. It talks
Right.
about his goodness and the creation and how God created both he, male and female, created he them.
Yes.
So in the beginning of God's
Yes.
ordained purpose was both male and female. They were created in God's ordained purpose.
Right.
He takes what was already created in his glory and then he makes and he forms.
Right.
So man was not the forefront of God's mind when we talk equality and equity, and woman wasn't the second thought, right? It's just in the narrative, but they both had a role to fulfill.
Right. A purpose. Yes.
Yes, if a male nor a female know that they have a role, then you're going to lose both. And
I
so,
think we need to, going along with that, um, what I love about Jesus, and this is why I follow him with everything, because he never asked us to do anything that he never done himself. So when God said, I need you to spend your resources, how did he show that? John 3:16 says that God so loved the world that he gave. God's a giver. So if my God's a giver, how come we're not givers?
right.
If God is showing, and then he's showing he didn't even just give, he gave his best resource,
Yeah.
which is people. A lot of times, ministers, pastors, and churches, We look at, okay, we, like you said, we look at this person not as a person, but what gifts do they bring?
Right.
What talents do they bring? What what can they bring to make us push us over the edge? How can this person get this many followers? How can this person give us this, push this over here and do all that? But instead of looking at these men and women, and specifically men, and saying, you know what, you're a resource. God sent me to you. Said God sent you to me to be a resource. It is my job. It is my responsibility to be a shepherd and and to cultivate this resource, because there's generations in you that I affect when I speak to you. Come on, somebody,
Right. Yeah.
Doctor, you're pulling on my preaching. I don't appreciate it.
Hey,
You're pulling on my
let me
preach,
sit back. Let me
but
get my notes. Let me get my notes.
but that's what I'm saying. We look in them. We stop looking at them as a financial gain or an anointing hookup, but look at them as, you know what? That's God's resource, and it takes resources to get resources. That's something that's just basic knowledge. That's just in finance. That's in networking. That's in anything that you do. It takes resources to get resources. So if you're unwilling to spend resources, if you're unwilling to invest in resources, this is God's most beloved resource ever, is his people. That's the reason why he came for. He sold a son to reap sons. He sold his own child to reap children. So why are we not investing? And why and talking about it from a male's perspective, why is the church, we're so shut up and so closed in, when before, like I was talking about in the Dr. King area, that the church was a one-stop shop in the community. It was the mecca. It was the epicenter of the community. It was, you know, if your child needs help with homework, send them to the church. If y'all are a little low on groceries, send them to the church. Hey, y'all need counseling, send them to the church. Y'all need a little help, send them to the church. It was the epicenter. It was the focal point of our community. Because let me say, as one of the baddest preachers to ever walk the earth, and Dr. Clark. He said it this way: in our time of slavery, the non-melanin folk, let me say it like this, let me say it proper. The non-melanin folk messed up. They messed up huge. And how they messed up is they allowed us to go to church on Sunday. If you wanted to oppress us, you should have never allowed us to go to church. Because now where I'm introduced to a God that I know that loves me and wants to liberate me. A God that knows my name and wants to put me in a position, the best way to love me. And how is the best way he loves me? He loves me just like he said, just the way that I am. I don't got to put on. I don't got to pretend. I don't got to be Dr. So and so. I don't got to have this X amount of gifts. I just bring myself and he touches that. That is something that we are missing in church, and why a lot of men are just like, I don't want to be judged. I'm not going in there. I'm not trying to be embarrassed. I don't want to be in there. Excuse me, I'm going to say it. I don't want to be henpecked. I'm not going in there. But a place where we can provide space for whoever you are to train, to listen, to, and that's the thing that I fear the church has forgot to how to do. Is my daddy always taught me this: God gave you two eyes and two ears and one mouth. You're supposed to observe and listen more than you're supposed to talk. Some of these hurting people just need to get it out. And if you're trying to shove an agenda down my throat, how can I be effective? How can I even know who I am if you're talking over me 24/7 and giving me step five, 1 through 5, how to be a blessed man? Sometimes men, and I'm saying this because I know I have some mental health specialists on that are watching. Sometimes men need a safe place to just get it out. Go
So
ahead, go because I'm not. I'm going to start preaching. You better stop me.
no, 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 no. And so, can you handle what I give out though? I mean,
Mm,
that's the place. You can't put some Holy Ghost juice on it. Right? You got to be willing to you got to be willing to accept it in the raw.
right.
You got and you got to let me talk my language. Here it is. So I'm going to I'm one of my Tateisms, right? One of my Tateisms from your book. That's a word now. I have some Tatisms.
There it is. There it is.
Because you talk about Daniel, and you talk about the most gifted. I think it was Daniel, the first chapter of Daniel, where you talk about how they took the most gifted, the most talented, the most self-educated, community, moralistically balanced individuals, or it says men in the original text of Israel. Let's take them and let's reprogram them. Let's feed them from a certain table.
Right.
And then let's teach them how to talk our talk, and then we'll send them back so that they can get the rest of them in line. Right. And so then, but Daniel says, I can't eat from the king's table.
Come on.
I can't pollute the glory that God has in my life.
Watch yourself,
I'm not perfect. I have some flaws, and I fall short. But yet I know I'm called, and I got some good in me. Right? And we got to make sure that we don't become that embodiment of that Daniel text, where we take the most gifted individuals, people that have the most that we can monopolize off of, or that we bring the most crowd, or bring in the most has the charisma, who has monopolize off of it, and then let's feed them what they need to be churchy, but not the divinely God ordained. And so we got to be careful that we
hear that he said churchy, but not God ordained.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
I mean, or again, back into the duplicates. And so we got to be careful that we don't become that, right? And we got to be willing to take the time to hear what people have to say. Let them speak their language. Stop feeding them churchy lingo. Or no, we can't say that in God's house. Because I found this out. I'm gonna get in trouble. My congregation will let you know. I'm so unorthodox. And I have an earned doctorate, but I'm dealing with real people who have real situations.
Come on,
and I tell them, I say, y'all want to stop folk from cussing when they come into church, but y'all leave church and cuss. Y'all don't want to holler at your boy now. No. But let people. One of the most blessings that I have in liberation is to be fully me. Somebody brought something to me that they were really hurting, and they began to apologize. And I told them right in my office, don't you apologize for fully feeling how you feel. Right. Flesh that thing out. Flesh it out. You feel how you feel, and God appreciates it because he enjoys you loving him so much that you can be fully naked and you can be fully transparent emotionally in front of him.
Right.
And we got to be willing to be able to, if we say for men to let it out, then you got to be willing to endure and take what they release and not share it with the world. We've got to, if I talk with you as a brother, you should keep that between brothers.
That's huge.
Discretion is the key. You got to hold confidentiality. Realize Jesus was distinct and he told you, don't tell nobody.
Yes.
That's something to keep between me and you.
Right.
And then can you handle that? Right. And so I think that we just got to be very careful. And again, when I say this, I'm not throwing stones at the church. I'm sitting in the church. And this is a reminder of me myself. When it comes to dealing with men, and then you made a statement now. You made a statement, so you can't get mad at me. We're in this fire together. You said that men are not coming to church. If they're not coming to church, then why don't you take the church to meet them where they are?
Oh, careful now. Careful. No, you're thinking outside the box now. Careful.
And
I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know if that's allowed.
Watch this. Watch this. Take note of this. Just because. And when we talk about fathers, because you wrote in your work about how some may not have had their fathers, but they learned from the fathers in the church. But one of the things I realized growing up in the church, even though a person's father may not have been a part of the church still respected them as their father.
Correct.
So even if I'm not married to the mother that may be a member of your church, I still deserve the respect as their father.
Right.
So we just have work to do, And if we follow the examples that are presented in your book, listen, I'm not going to eat from your table. And watch this. The church has to be willing to let black men choose which portion of the table they want to eat from.
Ooh. Oh, that's good.
Just because I'm certain, oh God, Daniel, you done taught me something.
Oh
Just
God.
Daniel says this: just because the king is serving it doesn't mean I have to eat it.
Come on now. That'll preach, son. I'm taking that one. I'm
Listen,
sorry. I'm going to take that one before you get there to
that that
Sunday.
that that, that is what you put in your book. So don't give me no credit. You present a narrative that gives the characters choice.
Hmm.
And if he who the son set free is free indeed, then it ought to start with us as the church. We ought to give people the freedom
Yes.
to select which portion of the meal of the church that we are serving that they eat from.
I heard it like this, Dr. A. And it was a podcast that my wife was showing me because preparing for this, I know that I had you coming on, so I had to study and come correct.
Oh man.
So I heard it on a certain podcast. He said, "Listen," and it broke me down. And I'm going to tell it. This gentleman said, "It's amazing how resilient the black family is. That we survived slavery, we survived so many atrocities.
Mhm.
The moment the fabric of our family was torn is when we started taking government handouts." Because he said, "Listen, this," and then I did a little bit more research in there, because one of the reasons why we don't come to church, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag, but you still need to go buy my book on Amazon right now, or Google Play, or Apple right now. Uh, but another reason why is education, but and so understanding that I can't take everything. Not everything that glitters is gold, because a moment it started in the 1960s. I don't know the exact year. Let me teach a little bit. It started in the 1960s in Chicago. The moment that they started handing out government handouts, for a family to receive that government handout, the male could not be in the household. So you want your take care of your family? I need you to remove you from the household, and then you can get food stamps. Then you can get government assistance. Then I can place you in a system where I can get you a so-called better housing. But the male could not be present in the household. And the moment we agreed to that, the black family dynamics fabric started to tear. And we're seeing ripples effect of that over and over again, to where now our women have taught themselves how to live without a man, without a covering, and raise men the best way they know how, because a man's not there present to help them raise a young man. Or they're raising these beautiful little girls that doesn't know how it is to be protected by a father, because the male could not be present, and the male felt responsible that I had to leave, or my family is not going to be taken care of. And we're seeing that from generation to generation passed on, where these men are just not simply there. And we're seeing, and this is why the enemy, I'll say this, and I'm going to try not to preach, but this is why the enemy doesn't, he attacks family the hardest. Because here's the thing: God, first thing he created was family. The church didn't show up till Acts chapter 2. Family was the first entity that God created. He created man and wife. He created family. That's how much family is important to God. He created it first in Genesis. It's not all the way till we see it in Acts chapter 2 that we see the church being birthed. It's all the way in Acts chapter. But the first thing we see is family. So family is important. And so what the devil did is, the very first tactic the devil did, our adversary, what was the very first thing he did? Is to cause division between man and woman. That serpent got right between Adam and Eve and tempted her, and caused that division, started speaking in her ear, tried to separate man and woman, and also in turn separate them from God. Why is that so important? Because if a man knows his proper place and knows who he is, and then if a woman knows her proper place and know who she is, and when they come together because they are co-equal, co-leaders of this family, then what you have is you have a birther and a woman, and then you also have, especially in I studied this. It's in the Jewish community. The men had naming power. What's the first thing that Adam did in the garden? He named everything. He has naming power. As men, we have naming power over our family. We have a say so in our kids. We have a say so in the names of our children. We have naming power. So you put those together. The Holy Spirit told me this: when you put a man that knows that he's anointed, a woman knows that he's anointed, and when I put them together and they become one flesh, you have a called out generation.
Yeah.
You have a called out generation, a generation that knows who they are, a generation that knows their identity, a generation that understands that, you know what, I am me, she is her, and when we come together, we are one. But I still allow her to be her, but she still allows me to be me, and we're going to raise these children under admission of Jesus Christ. And when we do that, we bruise the serpent head, and then we be forever bruised. And these generational curses stop in this household, so we're not going to have to go through what you had to go through growing up, and I'm not going to have to go through what I had to go through growing up, because we're a called generation and we're doing this thing together. And that's why we see this heavy attack on families. That's why we see a heavy attack on men. That's why we're seeing men not being present, because we see the spider web of the enemy drawing and putting the battle lines in on the sand and drawing them away. Because I know once the man takes his rightful place in the church, not only does the woman have a covering, a provider, and a priest, now there's a protector there too. Now, because one of my favorite memories growing up, Dr. A, sorry, I've got my preach on right now. One of my favorite memories growing up is my dad. I get up in the middle of the night and get a drink of water, and my dad is sitting there and he's sobbing his eyes out on his knees, crying out before God. See, before I knew I was a preacher, I knew I was an intercessor. So I've learned how to be intercessor, watching my dad cry out to God. And my dad, brother, my dad makes me look small. My dad is a huge man. This is a Nebraska
you're a
grizzly
college
bear.
football player, so you're a big guy. So I can imagine what your dad is
Man,
like.
he is your stereotype Nebraska grizzly bear. This man is huge. And to see this man on his knees in the wee hours in the morning, crying out before God on the behalf of his family, that's what the enemy is after. That is what is going on, and that is the attack, is the division that is trying to be taking place. I see that we lost you. You come back in a
Can you
second.
still hear me? Can you
I
still
can
hear me?
hear you. I can hear you now.
We're still rolling. So the screen is frozen, but I wanted to say this: the father is important, but let's keep in mind as well is just because that father is not in the house doesn't mean that his influence can't still be felt.
Exactly. Very
And
good point.
and we've got to make sure that because divorce is imminent. I mean, divorce can happen. Can you still hear me?
Right. Yes.
Divorce can happen. That divorce can happen, separation can happen, but we got to make sure that doesn't bleed over into the next generation.
Yes.
And it goes all the way back to the garden. We've got to go
Mm-hmm.
back to that garden piece, because the first thing he does is he tries to separate,
Right.
right? And we have it in us. So you said you use the term place, right? So
Mhm.
I don't want to say I don't like that, but I'm challenged with that term, because when you become one, your place is together in the same place,
Yeah.
in the same purpose.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but although we're in the same place, we have different roles. And so we're so busy trying to fight over a place or over a position, because that's what
Mm-hmm.
place is position, that we lose sight of what our role is called to be.
Right.
Each have our own individual role. So
Right.
when we talk about the man being in the household, because I do believe that the household does suffer from fathers in the household. And
Mm-hmm.
well is now if they're not in the household, they may be demonized and they may be looked at negatively. Um, and so now why even come into the church? Because now automatically, because of maybe how it's presented, some presentation of teaching and preaching
Mm-hmm.
sermons, automatically it may be the man's fault. So slowly but surely, the church can start to mimic the government that introduced resources
Come
to
on.
almost replace the man.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
husband. We gotta
Right.
we gotta be careful that the church doesn't become that.
Right.
No, don't worry about that man leaving you. Here's
Going
some
back to what you said, making a duplicate.
yeah. And so we
Hmm.
gotta be careful. What can we do as a church to foster that man's presence? Not only in the church, because you talked about it before the church was created, family was there.
Right.
So maybe if we empower the man and when we encourage the man to be more involved in the family, then maybe that portion will transition into the church.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and so I think that when we have our men's rap sessions, when we talk to the men, we talk to them not where they are, but where God has ordained them to be.
Ooh, that's good.
Right. So I just think that when we look at God's ordained purpose, the same things that was attacking the families back then is the same thing that's attacking the family. And we want to make sure that we don't get a serpent spirit.
Right.
We want
Exactly.
to make sure that we don't start talking into the women stuff that God never purposed for their lives.
Come on now.
We want to make sure we don't start talking. Well, what surely God didn't say? You don't start double talking. You know you can make it without that man. You don't need him. Well,
Mm,
wait a
mm,
minute.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or you don't need a man. Or you don't watch Ben. You use the term henpecked. We even gotta watch that terminology because now it says that if I listen to my wife, then I'm not the man. Because the scripture also talks about them submitting themselves one to another.
Correct.
Yes, as we submit to God. So I'm just saying that from what you are presenting is that this is going to take time.
Absolutely.
It's going to take time and it's going to take resources and it's going to take us wanting to be relational versus dictative.
And versus being transactional.
And
Mm.
how do we move that into execution? We've got to
Right.
be willing to strategize. And guess what? How about we have some conversations with the men that we want to win into our congregations to see what their need is versus
Come
what we
on.
want to have?
Well, Isaac, what we want from, and that's exactly where we're going to go next as we're winding down. I don't want to just sit here, and I've been in many rooms, I've been in many conversations, I've been into many discussions, and just something like this, and we just sit there and pontificate on the theory of this. But me and you talked, and I want you to, if you would indulge us, you would, and be transparent. Um, you had a solution that I don't even think you knew how powerful it is. And what you've done in the past, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but this man implemented something, y'all. And this man is in the DMV area. This is not an easy area to be in. And this man did something so incredible that on one of his events, one of his Saturdays, he had over 60 brothers show up in the DMV area. That is just phenomenal. And I want you to share um, one of the solutions that you are implementing and that you are putting in place. That you have 100 brothers, 60 brothers, and you have these strong men showing up uh, just to just to fellowship. Go ahead and please elaborate for about 2 or 3 minutes on what you have done.
Okay.
That's so incredible.
Yeah. So let me back up. So this men's breakfast, we have it on the third. We have the breakfast on the third Sunday of each month, and it's early in the morning. Um, we have men coming from everywhere. Some of them don't even. The majority of them are coming from like off the streets,
Hmm.
like don't even belong to anybody's church. Some of them are homeless. Some of them
Hmm.
don't even have a place to stay. And then we have some who come from other churches. But it is, and this didn't start with just me. This was something that a man that I never met started at our church years ago, right? Um, and he kept it. He paid for it out of his pocket just so
Mm.
men can come together. And then we had another deacon that when they didn't have my church didn't have a pastor for 4 years, they kept this breakfast going. So
Mm.
when I got to the church, we reinvigorated it to where men who had longed for that breakfast started coming back.
Mm.
I mean, they
Wow.
were so excited because it's a breakfast without agenda.
Right. Right. Oh,
We,
that's so key. That
it's
is
a
so key.
and I tell them, if you never join this church, that's not what this is about. Matter of fact, I tell them sometimes when they leave the breakfast, yo, those of you who are going home to wash your car, go fishing and enjoy it. I really hate I can't be with you, but I got to go preach this 11 o'clock service.
And that's so real. I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
And so as the men started coming, they started bringing their sons. They started spreading the word. Next thing you know, we have a packed house full of men who come for no other reason but to eat, to share. Some of them ask for prayer. Some of them
Mm.
don't have a church home. Um, they need counseling. They need spiritual guidance, and
Mm.
also we have resources. We have resources laid out to where if you need counseling, if you're dealing with certain addictions, it's all available there. And these men are coming out.
Mm.
No other reason. Then we started a Thursday night. On Thursdays, we have what you call just like a locker room session. We just eat, chew the cud, we laugh, we joke, but never outside of God's ordained purpose. God, right? And so
Right.
we don't have a cover charge. We take up a free will offering, but we allow them men to be who they were created to be.
Mm.
Them
So
where
key.
we meet them where they are, right?
Right.
We meet them and we talk about their frustration. We talk about some of them got frustrated with me of some stuff I said. And we had a conversation because the way they perceived it was not how I meant it. But I had to apologize for the offense, but I didn't apologize for what I said. And watch
Right.
later on, what I said manifested itself. And those brothers had to come to me and say, "Oh, so you were right, but it was the way that you just humbled
Wow.
yourself. You got
Wow.
to be humble too. It can't be all about, come on, we need these brothers to come in here so I can give them a word. I'm gonna tell you, as I scan that room full of brothers, God is preaching to me.
Right.
Sometimes I let them preach. You can't be the
Right.
only mouthpiece.
Right. Mm.
You can't. You've got to be willing. Ministry has to be beyond you. It cannot be
That
person.
is so good.
It can. I'm gonna talk about the tape ministries, right? The tape ministries. If I believe that is ordained to be purpose beyond you all. You
Hmm.
are in the foundation to pass the baton off to a nation that's not even born yet.
I agree.
And I believe so. Here's it. I'm gonna say this, and I probably I get some bad email, but that's okay. A lot of the sickness in the pews is because of the disease in the pulpits.
Come on. Ooh.
I'm not
Ooh.
sure and secure in
He
who I am.
dropping stuff.
I'm
Ooh.
just saying, if I'm not sure and secure of who I am, and I have some insecurities, another
Hmm.
man don't have a chance. Because I'm always going to be the one that's going to have to one up you. I got to be the only power, all powerful, all the time, at any time.
Right. 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 Yeah.
And it just cannot be like that. And so as we open up the door for us to be brothers, I never have to demand the respect. They respect the office because they know I'll
Right.
carry out the office for the
Right.
betterment of them.
Love it.
I
Love
use
it.
the authority, I use the ordained anointing and power and authority that God has flowing through me
Right.
to empty it out to those who need it most. And so I just do believe that we got to have some conversations. We got to start strategizing. We got to research and study.
Yes. Study to show thyself approved.
How did
Yes.
they
Yes.
know about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel? Somebody had to research what they had to offer. So there
Right.
was somebody who went around and they did some statistics. Let me tell you where all the gifted ones are. Let me tell
Right.
you all the Israelites that are educated.
So true.
They research it and they're
So true.
researching us. They're figuring out, well, let me watch the preacher. Let me see what
Right.
he got to say. But we're not taking the time
Right.
to get to know them.
Right.
When we're getting to know them, it's not so that we can survey them to control them.
Right.
We're not winning them over to us. We're drawing them to Jesus Christ.
Yes. Absolutely. Man, that is so
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Amazing that he's having just breaking bread with another man
yeah,
with
yeah,
no agenda, with no preset notions on trying to do X, Y, and Z, no plans. Just let an organic fellowship happen,
yeah. And let
and
me and
that
let me
is. Go ahead, brother.
let me say this. Let me say this. Um, One of the blessings that we had from this is we had some felons that had were coming to the breakfast.
Mm.
We had some felons that were coming to the breakfast, and we had one individual. God, I'm gonna get excited.
Get
That
excited.
he felt safe enough to share his testimony,
Mm.
and from that he was able to restore his rights.
Wow.
From that, we started drawing other felons, right?
Mm.
And we used this man. He was able to help other felons that was coming to the breakfast
Come
restore
on.
their rights.
Yes, sir.
And so we had some people, and I'm gonna end on this because you know me. We had some folks that was turning up their nose, and they made me turn a corner in one of the homilies that I presented.
Uh
And I
huh.
presented the text that said, "All have sinned and come
Yep.
short of His glory." Why you
Mm-hmm.
turning your nose up at somebody that got caught? The only reason why you ain't do no time is
You
because you
ain't get caught yet. Uh
did
huh.
or worse, and you didn't get caught.
That's it.
So
That is it.
I think that your when they read your work, they're going to see the examples. And one of the things that I think that we need to get over is the male chauvinistic, egocentric view of women, and that's where we get our manhood. But if we go back to the original text, and what you write about is that we as black men have to recognize that we don't have to carry this burden by ourselves.
Right.
We've got to allow the women in the community to be able to help us bear this burden versus the battle of the sexes that keeps going and is real evident. I think we are some of the most as black people. We're always got this battle of the sexes going on. Who's right? Who's wrong? Okay, you win. Now, how can we come together to join our forces to
Right.
fulfill our goals so that our
Right.
community can be blessed?
The scripture says it, and this is where something that my wife and I are attempting to practice every single day is the Bible says, when a man findeth a wife, he findeth a good thing. They stop right there, and it says, and obtain favor. Women are favor. Women are God's favor. So stop fighting your favor, and why not partner with your favor?
And here's another view, if I could. So we're gonna high five on this because my wife and I we did a study, and when we looked at that good thing,
Hmm.
follow me, don't leave me. When
Yeah.
we look at that good thing, the good thing is not the woman. The good thing is the marriage of what the woman
Come
brings
on now.
with the man. Because if
Come
I
on now.
look at you as the woman being a thing, then I objectify you. I can do what I
Come
want
on.
with you,
Come
and I don't
on.
know how it affects you. But if the thing is the marriage, I will honor that woman and I will love her as Christ loved the church. I'm gonna tell you what, my wife
Come
would tell
on, preacher.
me I'm crazy about my wife. I would lose my mind if you come at my wife. My Bible is gonna sit over here, and I'm gonna deal with you as Eugene. I don't like
Right.
that because I was raised in the
Same.
projects.
Right.
But this is what the Lord showed me. My wife was with the birth of my first daughter, and she don't mind us sharing because we share this testimony. She was birthing my first daughter, and she was bleeding profusely. She was bleeding to death pretty much. And
Mm.
I saw this woman. They asked her, "Okay, we may have to make a choice here." I'm like, I don't know that baby. I love my oldest daughter. I love you, girl. I love you. I love you. But I didn't know her at that time.
Right.
My wife. And when my wife turned to that doctor and said, if anybody got to go, let my baby live.
Mm.
I, when I saw her and she looked and I'm seeing her. And then I go to God now. I'm going somewhere with this. I go to God and I say, well,
Hmm.
God, don't take my wife. Don't take my wife. I wasn't the husband that I am today. I ain't never cheated and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't
Right.
treat her like the gift she is to me.
Right.
I went to God and I'm like, God said, but God said, if you ain't gonna treat her the way she deserves to be treated, I'll take her and bring her to me to myself.
Wow. Oh my God.
This is her dying on. She's pretty much dying on
What?
the table, and I'm laying before God, and God was like, if you ain't gonna treat her like the queen she is, and like my daughter, I'll take her and bring her with me because I can treat her a lot better than you. From that day, that woman has not want. She don't want for too much, and I'm not trying to make myself all like that because I am crazy. She'll tell you I'm crazy, right?
I'm
But
crazy too.
but I will tell you this much that we've got to start honoring our marriage, start honoring our women, and us mistreating them and dehumanizing them or not being the man
Yeah.
that we can be. We've got to seek God, but we cannot be fully ordained, purpose fulfilled men that God created unless we connect with the church, not so much
Yes.
the organization, but the organism.
Come on.
If you connect with the organism, the living, breathing, expanding, anointing glory of God,
Yes.
makes it more palatable for us to serve in the organization.
Yes. I love it.
Watch
Y'all
this.
just heard.
Watch this. And I'm done.
Go
As an
ahead. Go
organization,
ahead.
how organized are we?
Huh.
I'm just
That's a
telling you,
question.
I'm not demonizing the church because we are it. But
Right. Exactly.
as an organ, because one thing that men don't like, they don't like mess. They don't like drama, and they like things to be organized. So
Yes.
if we want them to join our local organizations, how organized are we? And if we are we organized according to the Word of God that we
Yes.
deem the authoritative text for our organization? Just a question.
I love it. I love it. I hope y'all, if y'all were listening, I really hope that y'all were paying attention to what he was saying. That's the reason why he's back to lead off in my 4-part series. Dr. Austin over here dropping knowledge, dropping
No,
gems.
man, it's you. You are the
It's this
mastermind.
is crazy in this solution. Let me wrap up my solution and it's in my book. Please go get my book. It's on Amazon, it's on Google, and it's on Apple. Soon to be in Barnes and Nobles really soon. But the solution that I talk about in my research and talking about in my dissertation, and it's in my book. Is something that I am so excited about, and it's called the Rites of Passage program, in which something I didn't create on my own. I have incredible uh, guys that I was able to join together, link arms with. One of them is going to be one of my guest speakers coming up. It's by my pastor, it's my father-in-law, my pastor in Arizona, an amazing man of God, and he really was his heart was for men. And we came together, and God was telling us, like, if you want to hear if you want to hear the man, you got to hear the traumatic boy that's inside of him. And so we developed a program to which we putting feet on the ground, and we taking boys from 12-year-olds all the way up to 18, and we're teaching them not just scripture and not just our representation of scripture, but we're teaching them how to tie a tie.
Mhm.
We're teaching them how to change a tire. We bring in some ladies, and how do you talk to a lady? As the young people would say, my generation would say, how do you spit game to a girl respectfully? How do you balance a checkbook? How do you do things that life requires you, that a lot of these boys that we are taking in don't even have a dad, so they don't understand what it looks like. How do you dress right for a job interview? Oh, it's bad in Arizona. I'm gonna rag on Arizona a little bit. You go to job interviews and you see people in shorts and sandals, and they're like, who taught you how to properly dress for an interview in shorts and sandals? And we're teaching them life, and we're teaching them how to be what God's called us to be, and rooted in Scripture. And what's so beautiful part about it, we're having the older men teach the younger men. We're having grandfathers teach these young boys, these young boys, and we're having people from the military. We're having ex felons, and we're having all these people, all these men that they literally sign a contract and say, you know what, I dedicate myself to be in this young man's life, not just throughout this program, but for a number of years. And I'm telling you, the success rate that we've seen in Arizona, because we started in Arizona, that's the founding chapter. I am strongly and working, really hard to get a headquarters chapter here in Dallas, and I'm real close to doing so. I have some of my classmates that are on, and I've told them this about the rights and passions, that they're so excited that they want to have a chapter where they're at, and we're just get excited at expanding abroad and doing so. But it is taking the trauma that these young men, and giving them a space to not only let it out, but now giving them tools and resources. That's the thing about, and this is the thing about Team Tate Ministries. Me and my wife are heavy into deliverance. She's a dynamic prophet, and we go heavy into deliverance when we minister. When people ask us to speak, the power of God comes, and deliverance breaks out all over the place like clockwork. But it's not just good just to be delivered. Where's the follow up?
Yeah, yeah,
Where's the checking on you? Okay, because the scripture tells me this, Doctor A, that you know what he looks for a clean house. That our adversary looks for a clean house, and he comes back 7 times stronger into a clean house that is unoccupied. Where's the follow up? Where's the okay? I helped this young man out, but I'm now going to walk this life out with you. And we have such a success rate. I'm so proud of this program. We've had guys go off to be married that have never seen marriage before. We have young men go off to college who's never seen what college looks like. Doctor, we've had several guys. I'm so excited about this. We had several young men that say, you know what, I need this so badly. I'm willing to go through the program again, just so I can get the male attention that I know that I deserve. And they'll go through the whole program all over again for that. And then they come around, turn around, and then they bring their friends to the program. And it's so huge. And we were trying, and we're still trying. We want to build this thing out so well that it is now. It will be a we can present it to the various cities wherever chapters that they're in, and present it to the cities that say, hey, instead of throwing our kids away, throwing our boys away, and locking them up, send them to us. Allow this to be an alternative for the penal system. Allow this to be an alternative. And if they complete this program, we can work something out, because we don't want nothing on their record that's going to allow them to be hindered the rest of their life. But give us these young men, and we're working on getting, and we're talking to some corporations to where, even so that the older ones can have a job afterwards or whatever have you. But we are so excited about this rites of passage program that I can't even tell you how crazy successful it's been in Arizona, and how we're going to start this here in the Dallas chapter. And I'm already talking to several other people abroad in the States, and even shout out to my big sister, because they want to start a chapter in Barbados.
oh wow.
So it is something that is so amazing that I'm so just happy about. And to even where I'm partnering with other classmates doing the work, and we're collaborating and doing these things, because it takes a village, it takes a collective effort, it takes a strong male presence of more than one. Because I had a good father, I still have a good father, but I also had dynamic coaches, I had incredible uncles, I had youth pastors, I had teachers. Every single one of those men has something to do with me being where I am at today. And we want to blow this thing up to where we heal the boy before he becomes a broken man. And that's what the rites of passage is. And that's what, go get my book. There's more details in there. And if you want more details about the program, please email me at teamtapeministries1@gmail.com. If you want to start a chapter where you're at, you want to start a chapter in your church or whatever have you, we are so excited about that. And now we're closing down, we're closing shop. But before I do, I cannot, Dr. A, you got 30 seconds, brother,
Okay, okay, okay.
and let them. I'm telling you, I want you to unleash heaven on these people and empower these brothers that are watching, empower the sisters that are watching. You got 30 seconds, and then you're going to tag me in, and we're going to close this thing off, brother. Go ahead, 30 seconds.
So I would just say, just as it has been throughout the narratives that you use, it takes time, it takes resources. God dug in the dirt to form humanity. Listen, you got to be willing to put your hands in the dirt
Mm.
to pull out a part of me that was already there in God's ordained purpose, but it just needs some forming. It just needs some fine tuning, and it takes time. And watch this in the narrative, even with in Daniel, at the end, after the Israelites were fed, after they were nourished, the text presents that they were able to stand on their own 2 feet in front of the king.
Come on.
Our job is to nourish, our job is to feed, our job is to try to replenish, restore people healthy back to where God purposed for them. But are we willing to allow them to stand on their own 2 feet? Trust God's purpose for these Black men's lives, that when they stand up, they will be what God ordained them to be. Let us be willing to be relational, really find out what God is trying to do. And I speak this because Dr. Tate, you said it. The deliverance anointing is never forced.
Come on.
Let it come naturally. Let
Come
it
on.
come in the flow of God.
Come
Don't
on.
try to create an inauthentic environment.
Yeah.
Let God do it. Let
Yeah.
deliverance come. Don't
Come on.
force it, because it's not deliverance. You're trying to duplicate what you done saw something else, and we try to duplicate what we think is a move of God. But the
Right.
move of God always starts on the inside, may not manifest till later on. But if we would link up to what God has ordained, everything He touched, gave. The woman with the issue of blood, I know something is happening because my
Come on.
virtue has left me. What
Yes.
part of you are you willing to give up
Come
for
on.
somebody else's growth, empowerment, and
Come
development?
on, sir. Yeah.
I got to give up the way I see, even
Yeah.
how I think I view God. Let God be God, even
Yeah.
if it's different than what we normally see. So let me come with my different haircut.
Come on, preacher.
Stop being focused on tattoos on the arm and
Come on, preacher.
scars on people's hearts.
Come on, preacher.
We are people who have overcome, who were snatched. I saw somebody say we were snatched from our families.
Yeah.
Our ancestors they were torn apart. They were
Yeah.
in the four corners of this country, but God brought us back together.
Come on.
We're all brothers and sisters, whether you're in the church or out of the church. They are God's creation. See others through the eyes of God and not through your eyes of flesh.
Come on.
Give me a chance. I may not look like you. I may not smell like you. I may not even worship the God that you worship, but I will be won over by your love.
Come
And
on.
watch this. If you never win me over, if I never join your church, if I never set foot in your doors, is my life worth the investment?
Come on.
As long as God gets the glory. And so
That's all
my
it is.
message to us as the 21st century church,
Yes.
I have not seen, neither ear heard, neither has it entered in our hearts, but it's in the purpose of God.
Yes.
There was a woman that I talked to today. She's taking care of her husband. She's been taking care of her husband for years. She's one of our she-rolls. And she said something to me. I thought I was calling to encourage her. She said, Pastor, our prayer is that we grow servants. That we get beyond bishops and preachers. I ain't never been so caught up with seeing people so position and title hungry in my life.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, serving is what God has called us to be.
Yeah.
So look beyond our own agendas and really figure out not what we want these men to have, but what do they need. When we identify what they need, are we willing to spend the resources, the time,
Yes.
and energy to get them to be? And can I just go book?
Go ahead.
I've been Dr. Austin. I'm Professor Austin. I'm Reverend Austin. I'm Pastor Austin. But my book is Someone is Missing, Living Through
Yes.
the Authentic You. I enjoy being Eugene K. Austin II.
Yes.
Dr. Austin can be too tight. Pastor Austin can kind of be judgmental. But Eugene, I'll hang out with him all day long. If
No
you
doubt.
be who God created you to be, we'll win these men because men want authenticity and not your doctrine or your doctorate degree. Thank you.
Come on, preacher, man. I tell you, that's why that man is bad. That man right there is on fire. And that's why he's one of my favorite preachers. and
Book on
favorite people.
Amazon. Book on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and some of the other. I just thought I'd put that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Please go get his book too. Go get my book, The Decline of Black Men's Church Attendance, and then go get his book, Someone is Missing. Now that I can't let you get all that fire and all that glory and not be able to rub it on my head. Let me get some of that and just let me just rub it on my
You
big
give it to
forehead. Let me,
Virginia Beach. You and your wife are the coolest couple. I thought me and my wife was cool until we hung out in Cape Town, South Africa. You all are the coolest. And let me say this: God showed me something. I got to tell you this. Um, we do a scholarship every year, and I
Mhm.
think we give $1,500 to every student book. A book, I think it's $1,500 book
Wow.
scholarship every year.
Wow.
It's maybe five. Is it 500? I think whatever it is. We were having challenges, and it was a white church. That's why we gotta don't be. We want to deal
Mhm.
with our color. We want to identify our oppression, but not close us off, because all of God's children.
Right.
It was a Caucasian church that wanted to join with us.
Mm-hmm.
We went from $5,000 scholarship to tapping into a $25,000
Oh.
scholarship simply
Whoa.
because they saw our desire.
Wow.
I'm
Praise
saying
God. Wow.
to Reverend and Dr. Tate, I'm saying to you all that the same God that's here in Virginia that opened up from 500 to 1,500 to 25,000, God has a resource that y'all gonna tap into, and that's gonna
Come
tap into
on.
y'all. That's gonna give you everything that you need because you have a heart for God's people.
Come on.
I saw that when I was sitting there. I wanted to share that with you. We over time and I'm talking too much. But you better receive that in your spirit. Receive
Yes, I
it in
do.
your spirit.
Yes, I
God
do.
has somebody watching this right now that can write a check for everything you need. Soon as when you receive it in your spirit fully, God's gonna give y'all everything you need to go global. Thank you.
Come on. Come on. I gotta jump in that river with him. Listen, God is on a move, and He's on a move on such a way, in such a strong and powerful way, that a lot of people thinking that this is a God that's on a sin hunt. And I heard it this way: God is not on a sin hunt. God is on a son hunt. He's
Yeah,
looking for sons. He's looking for men. He's looking for boys. He's looking for a generation of men that knows how to set the standard, that knows how to stand up when everyone else is sitting, knows how to speak up when everyone is quiet, and knows how to be quiet when everyone else is talking. God is looking for men to stand up and take their position as head of the household and as co-lead and as a covering. God is looking for men to go where no man has gone before. God is looking for men, and that's what I'm I'm attempting to do in my calling, because I struggle and I fall every day. I ain't perfect, but I wanted to come on here and tell you that God is calling men to be where He's called them to be. And it doesn't matter where you are, God's going to locate you. It doesn't matter where you fall into, God's going to pick you up. It doesn't matter what you think you have done, God has already covered you and washed you over and with His precious life. God is looking for men that knows how to war, worship, and weep at the same time. David was our perfect example. David messed up, but God still covered him. David know how was a warrior, and God still covered him. David know how to weep before God, because sometimes we think we're just too strong to weep, but no, there's liberation in a man's tears. When a man cries, there's a purpose behind each tear that a man cries, and God is asking us, you know what? I need men to stand up to where they're at, and I need you to learn how to worship, war, and weep, and know how to do and go forward and go forth and produce and not duplicate but multiply what I've put inside of you. And if you do that for me, this generation is in a world full of blessings, a world full of something. He's going to turn something upside down. And I truly believe that God is on the move, looking for men, looking for boys. He's time to wake up the sleeping giant. It's time to put our community back together. It's time to put our churches back together. It's time to put our families back together. It's time to once again put God right back in the center of everything that we do. And for God I live, and for God I die. It's time to teach our boys that no, it's not just enough to be a strong man and have a strong handshake, but it knows how to lift up their hands and know how to worship God, knows how to get on his knees and knows how to intercede on God's behalf. That's what I believe God is doing and moving in the earth. That's my calling in this ministry, is to uplift families and uplift brothers, to understand that, you know what, you're more powerful than you think. You're more anointed than what you think. Why do you think the enemy is attacking you so hard? Is it because the anointing on your life carries a threat to hell's kingdom, that he does not want you to see your full potential? But I declare over your life that you're going to see everything that God has for you, and you're going to walk into everything that God has for you, and then you're going to be everything that God has called you to be, because he loves you, and there's no other purpose than that. That's because he loves you. He loved you first. He loved you when you didn't know him. He loved you when you didn't acknowledge him. He still loves you. And that, but now that you recognize his love, he's going to expand and show himself in a way that he's never shown you before. So get ready, man, because you know what? Here comes in a revival. Here comes a reformation of men taking back what we should have been taken back a while ago. And for that, I am done because I'm preaching, but I love this stuff. And I thank you, Dr. Austin, for being who you are and being making time and available. I know that you're an extremely busy man. Thank you, audience, for listening and tuning in. And you know what? Do me a quick favor, because I know I can't be where I'm at. And Dr. A cannot be where he's at without the incredible wives that we have.
Yeah.
Can y'all do me a favor in the chat? Just shout out First Lady Valencia and Maisha Tate. Just tell them, just give them some love and show them some support, because it's not easy understanding that not only do they have the calling, but they also upgird us and and keep us, and they also do so many things that allow us to be who we are. And I know for a fact, and Dr. A can attest to this, we cannot be where we're at and do what we do without our amazing wives being so supportive. So we honor you, women. We honor you, wives. We honor you, my wife, Maisha. We honor you, First Lady Valencia, for being such an incredible favor and gift to us. And with that being said, we love y'all. We'll see you next time. Keep posted on our social media, because we're going to have a part two, and I'm going to have another special guest with you. This has been Team Tape Ministries. I absolutely love this, and I love Dr. Austin. Man, I love you
Love you too.
more than you know. And so go get his book, go get my book, The Decline in Black Men's Church Attendance. It is available on Amazon, Google, Apple, and Barnes and Nobles. And you know what? Please share this. If this has touched you, please share this, and we'll see you next time. We love y'all.